Facebook. I'll be able to see if I see it on YouTube.
Okay, here, let me log on. All right, I see the background convo starting soon.
You see it on Facebook?
Yeah.
Yep, it just started. Okay. All right, let's see. After divorce and after the passing, untimely passing of my father, so that's how I became a writer. And here I am.
From dating to relationships, from sex to love, from Christianity to politics, from darkness to light, you have now entered into the real zone. Welcome to Conversations with Trent, where no topic of conversation is safe from discussion. Now, here he is, Mr. Epic himself, Trent Williams.
What's going on? What's going on? Look like they didn't want us to be great tonight. They didn't want us to be great.
It's all gravy.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Let's talk about some boundaries here, man. Boundaries and walls, man. What was your thoughts? We closed on your thoughts, so it's only fair that we actually begin with your thoughts.
Yeah, no. Boundary. I will just say, generally speaking, boundaries are a helpful way.
Oh, somebody's coming in late, man. Somebody's coming in late.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
I didn't say anything. Look, I didn't say anything. I just said you're here. That's all that matters.
I'll be. Oh, I don't know what's going on with my camera. Oh my God. Sorry, I'm in the car. I'm good. I planned on being home, but I'm out in limbo waiting for some folks.
You ain't waiting for a date, are you? Because I ain't made it. I'll get there next week. That's all I'm saying.
Nick, wait, hold on a second. You're telling me next week is a date? That's what you're telling me? That's what you think it is?
Well, I'm out there to see my friends. We're doing dinner date, but then I'm gonna see Shan as well too while I'm out there.
That's quite interesting.
Anyway, well, hey, so what I missed, guys? Good to see you guys.
Nothing. I was just about to get into boundaries, and boundaries are basically a way to protect ourselves in a very healthy way. Okay. And boundaries, we need. If you look at stores, if you look at stores, you look at jobs. Everywhere in most places and spaces has boundaries. There's rules and regulations that are there, so therefore they will facilitate a healthy dynamic between people, right? So we need those. So it's essential that we have those within ourselves, right? Problem is that much like a lot of things, awareness and communication, right? Part of the problem with boundaries is, and I will say that in my past, this is something that I was guilty of, is dishonoring my boundaries, right? And meaning that once you've communicated a boundary and the person has understood it, then when they disrespect those boundaries over and over and over again, you have to look at yourself and why do you dishonor yourself, right? So boundaries are a healthy, and this is how I look at a boundary. Say for instance, Shane, me and you have a heated argument about something, right? A boundary is then me saying, and even in the calmest tone that I'm in now, I will say, Shan, I will not entertain this conversation until both of us are calm. When both of us are calm, we'll revisit this conversation. That's a boundary. That's a boundary. And problem is that a lot of people don't know how to a lot of people do not know how to. What's up, brother Mark? Not a lot of people know how to and stick to your boundaries. Stick to them because your boundaries are tied to your self-love every single time. And can't nobody love you the way that you love yourself. And people continually show you how you love yourself by the boundaries that you set and they respect.
Right. Exactly. Well, actually, boundaries are actually self-empowering.
Yep.
If we actually follow those rules, and that's when one knows self, that's the only way you can actually set a boundary.
Yep. So, Sister Shan, what you think?
Well, I think that's a very good use of the word boundary and not wall. So we know that there's a very distinct difference.
If I said boundary, that's the way it's gonna be. That's the reason.
Oh my God!
What I tell you something?
Here she go starting.
Why do you continue to bring this animal in me?
I am going to send you a Webster's dictionary as well as
I told you there's no need for it when I own the dictionary.
I just think you need that.
I own the dictionary.
Your life. You need that in your life. You need that in your life.
Why do you continue to bring this beast out in me? You keep it up, Romello gonna keep coming back. But anyway,
you and Nick better behave tonight, because I'm here. I'm here. I got time tonight. I'm
with the shits tonight.
Oh yeah. I got time tonight.
I'm definitely with the shits.
Okay. So Shan, since
that sounds like shits like with the Z at the end.
You already know what it is. What's that?
So Shan, how do you see boundaries, Shan?
I mean, I think I definitely agree that having boundaries is a form of self-love. Like you've got to you've got to have a limit on the things that you're willing to accept and not accept. Whether in anything, whether it's a romantic or a platonic, a romantic relationship or even a friendship. They're necessary. So I definitely agree with that. I think the walls, if we're talking about romantic relationships, so let me just move on to walls, or those things that are blocking off other things, right? Not limiting, but they actually block something.
Yep.
I just want to make sure I know. Block something.
Yep.
You get that, Mr. Williams?
Damn.
Okay. Damn.
So here, Shane, I was telling Trent backstage that this is how a practical example of how I see boundaries and walls, right? So say if we're walking down the street, there's two houses. There's a house on the left and a house on the right. The house on the left pretty much has like, hey, no smoking, like, take your shoes off at the doorstep. There's no, no cussing, whatever that the boundaries are set, right? And for the most part, it's a welcoming environment. You go by the rules and regulations. Right. It's a welcoming environment, right?
Absolutely.
Now, this house that's on the right that has a 50-foot fence that has barbed wire around the top. And there's three pit bulls running around the house. And if you can get over the top and over into the pit bulls, you get over into the house and the doorstep of the house, right? When you get into the doorstep of the house and you finally get in, there's security cameras everywhere. right? That's somebody who lives in a wall because their defense mechanism is, this is what I need to do to protect myself, right?
Right.
People who have walls have a very tough time communicating boundaries. That's the fact. People who, or either they have a tough time communicating boundaries, or yes, they have a tough time communicating
Communicating.
boundaries. So when it comes to, I'm sorry, I'm looking at, so when it comes to walls are things that block, to Shane's point, it blocks, blessings from coming in, because it literally has a defense mechanism that everybody's out to get me. And
let's talk about emotional walls.
Okay.
And I give an example: emotional wall, telling yourself that you can't trust anyone, that is better to not become attached to anyone again. That's a wall. That's an emotional wall where you completely block out any type of emotion, any type of feeling. You're actually still living in that pain.
Yep.
Yes.
Let's talk about emotional walls.
Yep.
So it's totally different. And as far as boundaries, I'll go back to boundaries. And as far as boundaries, you can set the boundary and still don't know what to do with the boundary.
What do you mean?
Meaning, like if you say, well, you know what? And thinking about your past relationships, let's just say if I had a very toxic relationship, right? And I'm dead set on, I will not allow this to happen to me again. But I'm still not all the way healed. I'm still living in that past pain. So I don't have the tools to know. I don't have the tools to actually set that boundary. I don't have the tools. Because I'm still stuck. Because I'm still looking at you as the person that hurt me.
I think here's how I kind of look at boundaries. And like I said, some people call me. I have a friend of mine. A couple of them call me the boundary king because they know I don't play. So when it comes to, and I tell people up front, I'm going to choose myself all day long. So you're going to have to act accordingly. I'm real upfront with that. So I think the thing is.
Repeat that again. What'd you say?
Huh?
What did you say?
No, I tell them I'm going to choose me all day long, so they have to act accordingly. Those are the facts. Those are the facts. So it's almost kind of like when people who have their boundaries, right? So I always say that, and to your point, boundaries are a sense of empowerment, because to be able to know the things, you have to be able to know the things that makes you feel uncomfortable, that doesn't make you feel safe, or whatever emotion like that that doesn't make you feel loved, then have to communicate and still say, hey, this doesn't make me feel love when you do ABC, XYZ. I'm gonna I'm not gonna need you, but I would prefer to have X, right? When X doesn't happen, then you have to lay out the consequence.
So what you're telling me is you can defend your space very well, your peaceful space.
Very well. And the reason why I can defend my space very well, because you're talking to somebody who has dishonored who's dishonored his own boundaries.
How did you do that?
What's that?
How did you do that?
By letting people I allowed people to disrespect me, and I would give it, seeing the good in people, like that stuff there. And it comes a point in time when it's not really about, it comes a point in time when it's not about other people, because other people are doing nothing but a reflection of what you are to yourself.
Exactly.
All day.
So at what point, once you were disrespected like that, at what pivotal point did you actually say, you know what, enough is enough? What happened?
Oh boy, I'm gonna give a Cliff Notes version. So my last relationship, about 2-3 years ago, it was a lot of unhealthy behaviors, if on both sides, right? And I will say one thing that I would say is that when I'm communicating feelings, right, or if I'm communicating feelings in a way, don't gaslight me, don't invalidate me or anything like that. And what I would do was I would give this person chance after chance after chance after chance after chance. And there was just a moment when I got called narcissistic, selfish, all that. And I was like, wait a minute. Like,
That's interesting.
This doesn't feel, you know what I'm saying? And even when you communicate it to that person in the way you express your boundaries and express how you feel, even then, some women will try to emasculate you. Let's call it what it is. They're saying that you, oh yeah.
So wait, and you allow that to happen? That's what you're saying?
Yes, I did. I mean,
people allow certain things to happen.
Hold on, Shannon. I would do that because you have to understand, as a person who takes accountability and responsibility really high on my list, where it become unhealthy for me is that I would take the blame for everything. That was my unhealthy behavior. I would take the blame for everything.
Why is that? Why would you take the blame like that?
Just to keep the peace.
How old were you when you did that?
I had to been, let me see, it's about 3 years ago. So I had to been like late 20s, early 30s, very early 30s.
Yeah.
I call that self-inflicted wounds. When you knew, I'm more than sure you knew you weren't to blame, but you allowed yourself to take that dagger because of feelings you have for this person.
Yep.
I've always loved me.
Yep.
Even when I wasn't choosing me, I was choosing me.
Right.
Whoa. How so?
Because sometimes when I say, even when I wasn't choosing me, I was choosing me, everyone stumbles. But when you recognize when you stumble, you only can stay there for half a second. You can't stay there no longer than half a second. Then you choose yourself.
So
but everyone, when you choose someone else over yourself, know exactly that they're doing themselves a disservice. But the most important part is, just like what Nick was just saying, he moved away from that.
Yep.
That's why he was victorious. He moved away from it. He recognized it.
So
if you're wilding it, go ahead.
So I get that, and we all have. So, but when we were talking about the whole thing where men know the difference between, what was it, investing when you're
tricking.
Men know the difference.
So in the relationship that you were talking about when you were tricking, were you choosing you for 5 years?
Well, yeah, because I was getting what I wanted.
Nick, that's some bullshit. Like, come on. Let's be.
I was paying for what I wanted.
I was paying for what I wanted.
Listen, wait a second.
So now you got to go out. Now you out there like a John, paying for it. That's what you're trying to say.
You're missing the point. I see you.
No, you missing the point, because I'm doing this because you still refuse to acknowledge certain stuff.
I'm not gonna let it happen. I'm not on the platform. I'm not gonna let it happen. So my whole point. Listen. My point is, I was still getting what I wanted.
Which was what?
Say again.
What were you getting that you wanted?
We already talked about that.
No, but I'm asking you. I never asked you. I didn't ask you that question. So what were you getting that you wanted?
I told you the sex was good.
So you were paying. So basically, you were John tricking out for some sex.
It ain't tricking when you have it.
Wow.
You asked for it, and knock it off.
It's not about me asking for. I got time tonight, but I'm not going there. You know where I'm from. You know where I'm from. I ain't doing all that tonight.
Okay, knock it off, Nick Inglewood.
Because I know we're almost 20 after, but seriously, when it comes to,
go ahead, man.
One thing I'll say this before I break. One thing that experience taught me was, even though I was a person who understood boundaries, and I was communicating, enforcing them to a degree was my struggle, right? Because I could communicate it, but enforce, like really sticking to your guns and enforcing them and saying, this is what it is, because I almost look at it like this. Here's my example, and we can go to break. My example. when I watch NBA basketball, there are rules and regulations. You get 2 technical fouls, you're out of the game, right? So there's no ifs, ands, buts, or maybes. It's cut and dry. This is what it is. You get 2 technical fouls, you out of the game. 2 flagrant fouls, I think you're out of the game. So I had to go back, and obviously I went to therapy and things like that, but I had to really unpack why it was a struggle for me in enforcing boundaries more so than communicating and living by them.
Exactly. Let's take a break, real quick break. We're gonna run a couple of commercial, folks. We'll be right back after the break. 1 second.
Thanks for tuning in to Conversations with Trent. We will be right back with more conversation after these commercial breaks.
Check out the creative work of the author Trent Williams of www.taylorkennedymedia.com. Chapter of the Delta gives us a peek at his life-changing events. And if that's not enough, Trent tells you more about his brothers and his life through memoirs in his book, The Four Horsemen. His blogs and daily stimulating quotes are published in his book, Life's Little Addiction. And when you have a need of some human coaching of life and relationships, take a look at Conversations with Trent, Volume 1 and 2, and Conversations with Trent, Limited Edition. You will find his works available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all online book retailers.
Welcome back to Conversations with Trent. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're online and want to be a part of tonight's topic, you can do that by dialing 347-324-5327. Press the number 1 to get into the queue so that your voice can be added to tonight's conversation. Now, let's get back to the show.
Okay, go ahead, Nick.
No, yeah. And so when it just comes to boundaries and walls, like I have a lot of empathy for those people who have walls and compassion, because I can only imagine how living a life where you have to feel like everybody's a threat, right? Because you feel like everybody's a threat because you have a hard time, or someone has a hard time and standing firm with communicating their boundaries and being upfront with that. And so to people who have walls up, I just want to say I have a lot of deep compassion. I have a lot of deep empathy for your struggle. What I would recommend is taking some inventory of yourself to know the things that trigger you. Knowing it really does take some inventory of yourself and being able to look at the things that make you feel loved, unloved, safe and unsafe, the things that trigger you and things like that. And then having the courage, and I do say courage, to then be able to communicate that to someone in a healthy way. Because you have to stand up. You have to, like, part of boundaries is being able to stand up for yourself in a respectful way. And I always say that how a person reacts to your boundaries is how you can tell if it's a green light, yellow light, or red light.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, when we talk about boundaries, man, once you set a boundary on a toxic person, how they respond to those boundaries is going to tell you exactly everything you need to know about the continuation of that relationship.
Yep.
Once you set that boundary and you say, hey, stop, no, this is not going to happen. It won't happen this way. It's going to tell you everything you need to know about the relationship. If it's a negative vibe, run away quick.
Yep.
Move swiftly. Get away.
Yep. Or if they try to here's the thing here. There is even, okay, I would even say, even when someone's boundaries is fundamentally something that you can't live with, right?
Right.
Instead of shaming someone and telling them this is how they should be, you can still say, hey, I appreciate how you have boundaries and that are in place in your life that protects you, right? Even if it's something I can get with or can't, just the mere fact that you're enforcing those boundaries is something that I appreciate. And you don't have, and that's a very accepting tone and view, instead of having to tell someone that they should conform or shame somebody because of their boundaries, right? And everyone has things that they're comfortable doing, and everybody has things that they're uncomfortable doing. And I think the best thing to do when people feel uncomfortable about something is to really, accept them for what it is, and don't shame them for it, because shame causes more disconnect than actually real connection.
Exactly. And I truly believe that when we talk about boundaries, how you go into that relationship, you're supposed to set that standard straight up.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you have to be completely naked going into that relationship. This is what I'll accept. This is what I won't accept. We'll go from there. That's it. There's no middle of the road there. This is it. And it may sound like being an asshole, but that's just the way it is. This is what we're dealing with. Is either that or nothing at all.
Right, but you yeah, I agree with you. And what I try to get people to understand is that it's a reason why. So you look at people who will get on social media, right?
Right.
People talk about, either they, are in Facebook jail, or Instagram has this block. And I'm just kind of like, well, man, like, you can't just get on a platform like theirs and thinking that they don't have boundaries as well too. They have boundaries in place set up. And here's why I say boundaries and order work hand in hand with one another. And what I'm coming to understand about a lot of people who don't respect boundaries is that they're out of order. Period. Out of order. And because there has to be some order in order. People talk all day about facilitating a healthy relationship. What is a healthy relationship? Whether it's a friendship or a romantic relationship, an essential part of sustaining and nurturing that is boundaries. And then even in the thick of things, being able to articulate your boundaries in a way that you can step away from something that isn't. Yeah, you gotta call it for. So I think really emotionally and highly, emotionally intelligent people really understand that. And when it comes to boundaries, because this is why I say I don't understand how people, like, I understand their disagreements, and that's fine to have disagreements.
Right.
But the arguing, when you hear it's back and forth, no, like what's that?
The only way an argument can happen if you're not stern on your boundary.
This is true.
That's the only way an argument can take place. When you're solid and stern on your boundary, hey, it's not gonna happen. They're not gonna play with you. They're not gonna play with you. Period.
Yep.
So that's for me. I'm called an asshole a whole bunch.
Yep.
A whole bunch. But I say, listen, it's not for debate. When I say that, that's a wrap of the conversation. That's it. It's not up for debate.
That's it.
And it's not up for debate.
And I think when it comes to, and I posted this the other day, and I said, well, you know, for women, when a brother says no on whatever level, don't emasculate him, right? Now, brothers, when a sister says no, then don't force, yourself upon her and things like that, right? And on every level, right? And I think when it just comes to boundaries, I just think that I think part of the reason why people struggle with boundaries because they struggle with communication.
Exactly.
People struggle with the communication piece of it because people will, I was telling a friend of mine maybe a couple months ago, she was explaining to me some stuff that she had going on, and I explained to her, how good are you at communicating your boundaries? And she was upfront and honest and said, I'm not very good at that. So one of the things I got her to start thinking about was, you know, writing down. And so instead of shutting down and suppressing it, being able to say what you have to say in a tone where you can say, hey, I'm not going to entertain this until both of us are at level headed. And then until we're level headed, I don't want to entertain it. That is a boundary.
Cooler heads prevail, man, when you have a civil conversation.
Correct.
A civil conversation could actually be involved in very stern, like, hey, listen, we're not about to do the back and forth.
Yeah.
It's non-negotiable, period. And when folks realize that.
And that gets me to my thing here about not only looking at the boundaries, but looking at the things that are non-negotiable, right? So I always say that even that's a boundary, right? And the things that are non-negotiable, those are, although I believe there are some universal that are non-negotiable, I believe for the most part it's on the individual level. And for the most part, I will say, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. For the most part, I will say that, when it comes to those non-negotiables, you have to be firm with those things. And a lot of times we want to give second chances. And I'm not saying that you have to be very careful about where you give second chances to, right? Interesting conversation I had with my mom last night. We were talking about forgiveness, right? I was telling my mom how we can't look at how people have treated us 2-3 years ago and function off of that today, right? Because that person could have changed. And I said, if you're still holding on to that hurt or whatever, you're doing yourself damage, right? And then, like, I was telling my mom last night, and I said, now you can't have reconnection with everybody. It's an individual. It's a very individual basis and thing, right? What I did say though is that when someone who has come along and has hurt you in some capacity, and they've come back and they've said that they've changed and they've proven that they changed, one of the things is to really have a conversation around expectations going forward, consequences going forward. And I think that is then to protect yourself from any hurt. I don't want to say any hurt, but any less hurt. And because you've already communicated, this right here happens, and this is a constant thing, I'm out.
Right.
And I think people here, and you have to. One of the things I say, this is my last point too. I think when people, I challenge this idea when people say, you shouldn't have to teach people how to respect you and love you. No, you do. You really do. Yeah. You really do have to teach people, and you teach them by showing them your boundaries and enforcing your boundaries. And people that is not controlling by any stretch of imagination. We're trying to facilitate healthy dynamics here. And just as we go to work and we abide by rules and regulations at work to facilitate a healthy working environment, the same can be done with our relationships and friendships.
Exactly. I totally agree with that because, like I said again, in most cases, when we set boundaries on a toxic person, one or two things are going to take place. They'll get offended, very defensive, a whole bunch of negative, but you have to stick to your guns. Period.
Yeah.
You matter. You first. It sounds selfish, but it is. You first. Your feelings matter first. Period. You set that boundary and mash on it.
Yes. So I get people to understand, how important boundaries are, how important that it is to.
I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
My past relationship, right? I didn't set the boundaries. Going in the door, I didn't set those boundaries. Mm-hmm. The disrespect started into play because I didn't set the boundary because it was fresh, everything. I just didn't set the boundary. I should have, I didn't.
Right.
So that's where the disrespect started. Light disrespect. Went from light disrespect to very heavy disrespect.
Yeah.
Because I refuse to set the boundary. You have to take full responsibility. When you don't set the boundary, you have to take full responsibility for however that person acts out.
This is true.
It's your fault, period. It was my fault.
Yep.
I allowed her to act out that way.
Yep.
Because I did not set the boundary.
This is true. And
did not set the boundary. So for my now relationship, the relationship now, I set that boundary way ahead. You know what? I'm not trying to revisit this shit.
Yep.
This is the boundary right here. Do not cross it. It's not negotiable. Period.
Yep. Yeah.
You're the gatekeeper of your happiness. You're the gatekeeper of your sanity. You're the gatekeeper of your peacefulness.
Yeah.
Folks have to understand that.
Yep.
You set that boundary and stand in it.
Yep. Yeah.
And people will call it egotistical, arrogant, all these other words, but stand in that, man. When you bound, I love setting boundaries.
Yep.
And that's with friendship. That's with my brothers. That's with anyone, family member. I said, hey, this is not going to happen with me.
Oh my gosh, yes.
This is not going to happen with me, period.
Yes.
Call Trent what you want, but I'm going to let you know I will plant this foot in your ass. This is a boundary.
Correct. And I think too, like I said, when it just comes to those boundaries, and like I said, it works with family as well too. And people,
you have to,
you have to, and because people, I don't want to say people can only do, as I said before, people can only do what we allow them, right? So
exactly.
So when we have really weak boundaries, we will, we will let the shit pass. We will start accepting less than we deserve. But it's one thing that I notice about how, like you said, about how empowering boundaries are, is that you can literally look at yourself and be able, and you say call it egotistical. I call it being direct, because in order, some women talk about wanting a man to be direct and this and that, until that man is actually direct and letting you know.
A lot of women can't handle that though.
That's what I'm saying. Until a man is letting you know what it is. And in a lot of times, some women can handle that really well. And some women do appreciate that in a man. There are also some women who, because they may not know what that being direct looks like, they may think about it as being controlling or being, somebody asked if I give classes on relationships. Brother, I wish I could.
That's Al Sal. That's my older brother.
Okay.
Mr. Al Sal, Mr. Wingman. What's going on, Al?
I will say that I am a vessel I'm a vessel of God. And however God wants to use me, I go into the direction that He wants me to go.
There it is. Good stuff.
But when it comes to that, though, like I said, I know we'll probably have another break here, but when it comes to just boundaries and just setting those boundaries and setting those limits and things like that, so many times, so many people are used to being out of order. So when you put order in place, a lot of times people don't know how. This is why I say this freedom stuff that people talk about. Freedom isn't really free, because there's a consequence. There's a consequence for everything, for every action that we do. There's a consequence. So if you think that going online and doing the most online and you get upset when Facebook bans you or puts you in Facebook jail. No,
there's boundaries for this stuff. These people have rules. There's rules. There are rules.
Thank you.
And that's with any relationship.
Thank you.
I noticed you threw the word narcissist out. I've been accused of being a narcissist in previous relationships and what have you. No, that's me setting a boundary. That's me saying this is not going to happen. This will not be a revolving door. Disrespect will not be a revolving door. It won't happen.
Correct.
It won't happen. See, you have to stand firm in that.
See, it goes back to like what you said about, it goes back to like what you said about just standing firm on it. And thank you, brother. And standing firm on it, man. And again, you're talking to somebody who will communicate boundaries, but didn't enforce it. And I did it. That was my unhealthy behavior. Not only not enforcing it, but
let me ask you something, though, Nick. Yeah. Why wouldn't you actually enforce that? Like in that moment, what was your thought process when you weren't enforcing that and the disrespect continued? Why didn't you actually mash the gas on it?
Because for me, I love this person, and I was naive to a lot of the things of the disrespect that I allowed. I was super naive to it. Because I saw this person, because we used to work together. Me and her used to work together. And when we got into the relationship, I ironed out, hey, these are my non-negotiables. These are my deal breakers. Here are the baseline boundaries, right? And, the person told me theirs, and but I think when the disrespect happened, it was looked at, well, I wasn't open, I wasn't this, I wasn't that. So, yeah, I felt shame in that regard, and I ultimately kept saying yes, which gets me to this point.
Right. Remember what I spoke on the whole yes thing. Remember that when we're constantly saying yes and constantly giving in, women tend to take advantage of that. If you constantly
we allow it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to say no.
Correct.
And a lot of guys don't. Man, what are you talking about? I give her what she wants. The hell I don't.
Correct. And even I'll go back to sexual boundaries. And I got to go here too. Some people have boundaries around and one thing I always say is that people have boundaries around what they're comfortable doing, what they're uncomfortable doing, right? And I think we should work to respect those boundaries to facilitate a healthy dynamic, right? I will just say one time, somebody who I met some years ago, I wasn't comfortable moving. I mean, this person wanted it, I think it was a week after we met, right? Mm-hmm. I wasn't comfortable move because I don't move that fast. So word got around is that Nick is gay because he turned down the right? But that goes back to what I said around. But I stuck to my guns. I stuck to my guns, and I stuck to what I knew. Because I said, you know what? This is what showed it to me right here. Because if somebody is willing to emasculate you because of a boundary that you have.
Wait, this was the girl that you were interested in saying that?
No. This is before that.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. That wouldn't even have crossed the path if that was that. No. So it was one girl I had met some years ago, and I met her, and after a week later, she wanted the D, right? So I'm like, I don't move that fast and things like that, and she basically was just like, well, it was just very shameful. That's how I felt. And so, but I still had the courage enough to stick to my guns, and I still had enough courage to walk away, right? And I had enough courage to be able to look at this and say, you know what? Someone who respects your boundaries, they don't act like that. Even if their sexual preference is different, there is still a way that you communicate to somebody, hey, even though we may be rocking two different ways, I appreciate the fact that you're a person who has boundaries and you stick by those boundaries. That's a very accepting thing to say to someone instead of trying to emasculate them and trying to change them to who you want them to be instead of accepting them for who they are.
I totally agree with that, but it also says a ton about that person, whoever that person was. It says a ton about who that person is. And I mean, come on. Just because you say no, that means you're gay?
You'll be surprised, brother. I'll put you like this. It does not surprise me. Or we can go and say that, say for instance, if even if a man cries to certain women, to some women, they may look at that as, oh, he's a softie, or because of how they were raised and things. And so that's emasculating men as well too. And
exactly.
I think ultimately, like I'll just say now, soon to be 33 in almost a month and a half, I will say that when it comes to boundaries for me, I'm at a place and space in my life where I'm just like, you know what? This is what it is. You can take it for how you want to take it. And if you can work with this, that's cool. And if you can't, it's cool. It is cool.
And this is what, like I spoke on this a few weeks ago, this is where the balance comes in between a man and a woman, as far as in a relationship. You cannot give in 100% of the time. You cannot do it. You cannot do that. That's detrimental to yourself. That's detrimental to your sanity. That's detrimental to your peace. That's detrimental to your happiness. You should matter. That's I tell guys, young guys, this all the time, man. Do not give in everything. Don't give in. Don't cave in. Don't be allowed to be shamed into her creating a Build-A-Bear. Because that's what she's trying to do.
Yep.
For her comfort.
Yep.
Don't be shamed into to her building up a man. No, we're not gonna work like that.
Right. And I think too, what part of boundaries as well too is that when people say no.
Hold on 1 second. Mark should talk. Let's see what Mark's talking about. Hold on a second. Can you see that, bro?
Yep. It's this thing. People are selfish and are habitual line setters, wanting to test your boundaries to see whether or not you will stay. Others are massive care. This is true. This is what I believe. I believe that.
Great point, brother Mark.
That is a very good point. I believe that, not to go super spirit, I believe people are sent in order for us to test how we enforce our boundaries.
Exactly.
And will we honor ourselves? Because damn if somebody else doesn't honor us. If we can't honor ourselves, how on earth can we let anyone else honor us if we can't honor ourselves?
Exactly. And it's so funny is it, and this I have to keep going back to this. You were actually shamed into something that you did not want to do.
Correct.
You were shamed into that. And think about it, if you didn't have the mental capacity to deal with that, think about the average man going through something like that and he don't have the mental capacity to deal with it. He'll start believing what she's saying.
Correct. Not only will he start believing what she's saying, he will start doing, and that is controlling behavior.
Repeat that.
That is that.
No. Rewind and repeat that.
With the if so, I always say this because I can't remember word for word. What I would say is that when a person disrespects your boundaries and they try to shame you and try to judge you and all that, and that's manipulative behavior, right? And you're allowing that manipulation to run. And so essentially what it's doing is, because a person can't accept you for who you are, what they'll do is they'll use shame, they'll use judgment in order to manipulate you to get to where that's narcissism 101, right there.
Exactly. And Mark's in with another comment.
Some women have no point of reference as to what is a healthy, growing up, stable relationship looks and feels like. So they'll blow up many relationships. That's true. I say brothers as well too. Like there's a lot of us who that goes on both sides of the equation. A lot of us too come from situations where we may not know what a healthy dynamic is. But I think, as I always say, before we get 10 minutes in, it starts with us. And really, we have to take inventory of us. We have to take inventory of the things that make us feel loved, unloved, safe, unsafe, and knowing and understanding our triggers and
Exactly.
what are we doing to willing to work through those, right? And knowing what those non-negotiables are and being
Exactly.
able to walk away when that shit shows.
Exactly. And the first step to loving yourself is setting your boundary.
This is true. This is
The
true.
first step to loving yourself is setting your boundary. Period.
This is true.
That's the first step. That's the first step to it. And that goes for men, and I can only speak from a man's point of view.
Right.
That goes for all men, because they do have brothers out there that don't know how to set a boundary, man.
Yep.
I know some brothers that don't know how to set, real nice guys.
Yep.
They don't know how to set a boundary.
Yep. And then what happens is people tend to walk. People say, "Well, this person walked all over." No, but when you don't set the boundary, that's on you. You have to set that boundary to be able to say, "I'm not going to allow somebody to." Not gonna happen. So
exactly.
The Bible says, "Examine yourself daily." It is a beautiful thing when you can. It is a beautiful thing when you can express to people and you have that confidence and courage in yourself to tell somebody, "This is who I am. This is what I represent." I say it with a smile on my face.
Exactly. I'm laughing because a lot of folks will challenge that when you set your boundaries, man. But you have to stand in it. Yep. You have to stand in it. One has to know oneself to set that boundary and stand in it.
Yeah. I was talking to a friend this past Saturday, and I was telling her just how, like, when it comes to boundaries and stuff like that, and because she's used to building up walls, and I think she's slowly getting to what it means to build boundaries and things like that.
Would it be safe to say that's an emotional wall?
Oh, very. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I yes, very much so. And I will say that I very much understand the reasons why. And I will just say that, like, I think she's getting to the point where she is really understanding self, really understanding, like, what it means to be able to stand up for yourself. Because I told her, like, when you can't stand up for yourself, no one else will. Right. So you have to be able, this is why I say that when it comes to, I don't judge why when people are in abusive relationships and the reasons why they stay. That's none of my business. Some people, but what I will say though is there comes a point in time when abuse is so prevalent. It's because people have sometimes, not all the time, a lot of times people just have weak boundaries. I have to call it for what it is. Weak boundaries and weak non-negotiables. There's no way that someone hits me and think that I'm going to stay. And we are in a society, some of it, a small microcosm of society who believes that if a man hits a woman or a woman hits a man, that they should be obligated to stay. No. Now, I will say that that's a non-negotiable for me, but to somebody else.
Wait, hold on 1 second. I'm gonna extend the show here. We had 7:53, but I didn't realize my mentor, David William, was actually checking a podcast out, and David's very, very well-known drummer over the years, engineer, well-known engineer everywhere. Actually, David had some great comments here. I just stumbled upon them.
Yeah.
David says, well, using God is like having a safety valve to fall back on if the results aren't popular. That's David. You have to know David. Yeah, that's David saying that. So David also says that.
So I'm looking at Mark's comment. He said that man looking through a man's phone is a strategic tactic women use as an out. Based upon that's true.
That's actually true. That's actually true. We'll go back to David's comments here on Facebook. What up, Dave? Dave C, I call him. He says, this is pretty academic stuff you're talking about. What's missing for me is this conversation is the natural course of developing a relationship as opposed to dictation to the course a relationship may take. Okay. Got you, Dave. Got you. Straightforward. But go ahead and finish it off.
No, and I'd say when people who hasn't had experiences of a man being that direct around who he is, what he stands for, what his boundaries are, non-negotiables. See, some women don't know what that looks like. So a lot of times in some men, some women who expect it, and some men don't even know what that look like, being fair, right? But when it comes to this thing about being direct, like I always tell people, I can be direct with you with a smile on my face. I don't have to be asshole-ish. Now I can be, but I choose not to be. But it's really, and what I always say, it really just goes back to standing on your ground, because when we go to jobs and stuff like that, there are things that we know that if we violate certain things that we get fired for, right? So again, as I say, there's rules and regulations, like when we go to Target, when we go to Kroger, when we go to Walmart, there's rules and regulations there to facilitate, patronizing the business in a pretty good space. Right. Then a lot of times, then we have to apply that same practical logic for us as well too. We have to.
That's right.
I tell them I'm like a 7. Well, no, I ain't gonna lie, I ain't like a 7-Eleven like that, but you know what I'm saying.
You open up for him like that, brother? I mean, come on.
Well, the right one, I would.
And sometimes, like I said, remember what I said, man. You cannot just be open like that to him. You can't do that. Yeah. Sometimes saying no is the best thing for you and her.
Yeah.
Sometimes no.
And I even look at people who have issues with delegating, right? So, a lot of times a boundary can be, I will say professionally, this is what I've learned how to do. Because when I was in my 20s, I would work from sun up to sundown, right? And what I've learned is that I burned myself out so much by doing that. What I've learned as I've gotten older is I've learned how it is to pace myself. Obviously, we're in our quarter close now, so it's a little bit different when I know when to press the gas and when to let back. I know when to shut it off for the day and get everything I need to get done, and that's that on that, and take care of myself. Right. I'm very aware of that. And so where I wasn't before. And I think boundaries just work so much on life. And as I said before, like when someone says no, also too, they don't really need to give an elaborate of the whys of the no. If they just say no, cool, we move on, we go to something else. That's just it.
Exactly. So Dave pretty much wanted to speak on developing of the relationship, the course of it. Mm-hmm. So in my opinion, to develop the course of a relationship, honestly, you have to be true trust and honesty to coming straight from the gate.
Yep.
True trust and honesty.
Yep.
Develop anything, before anything can develop, you have to be open to it. Yep. So, and just classic Trent, and Dave know what I'm talking about here. But as far as developing it, you just got to give it to him straight. No chaser, straight up. And set that goddamn boundary.
Yep. And I know that is true. And then you have to understand, like when you're setting, one of the things I always said is that, because everybody is different in what they prefer and what they like and stuff like that, but still just being honest and upfront about who you are, what you're looking for can save a lot of heartache, because it's kind of like, well, even if it doesn't work out romantically, you guys can be friends, you can be business partners, you can be, and I think in this world there's just so much around people in like relationships, and they're just looking for those relationships. And I'm not saying that isn't a good thing to aspire to or to have. What I am also saying too is that just because a person may not fit your dating preference or anything like that, that don't mean that you can just really dispose of him neither. You never, or him or her neither, because you never know that person. That person can be a conduit for many things that can happen in your life. If you're really open to how that connection comes. And I always say this, boundaries, I said people who respect you will respect your boundaries.
Exactly. So actually up on 8:00 here, but Shan had to actually get off because she was having some bad connections. So no, for the listeners, no, I didn't cut her loose. I didn't cut her loose. So she was actually she was in the vehicle, she was in a car, and she had to attend to some pressing matters. Yeah. She had to go take care of some things. So no, I didn't cut her loose. Just because she was disagreeing with me, no, I didn't cut her off for the night. Right. So, but yeah, she'll be back. She'll be back Sunday. She'll be back Sunday. So no, I didn't turn the mic off on her and all that good stuff.
We wouldn't do our dear Shan like that now. But yeah, walls as I said before. In closing, for me, I'll say boundaries. Walls and boundaries are designed to protect ourselves. One of them has rules and regulations in place that will facilitate what a healthy dynamic looks like and can look like, and you can get with, versus one where it is completely blocking and shunning everyone out, and it's very suspicious of everybody. And so it's important to understand the differences between the two, is because there are a lot of times that there's important to distinguish between the two, because wherever there are walls, there are poor boundaries. I just got to call it for what they're, just poor boundaries.
Exactly, I totally agree.
What I would hope is, and what I would recommend is taking some inventory of yourself, taking some inventory of the things that you like and don't like, and things that you will tolerate and not tolerate, and be able to stand on that. If there are managers who will fire employees because of piss poor behavior, then we have to be able to be that firm when it comes to our boundaries and sticking to our guns when it comes to that.
Exactly. And in closing, for me, boundaries are for to expand everything within you. Boundaries are to expand everything within you. And it's a healthy thing. It's a good thing. It's protecting your peace. It's protecting your space. It's protecting your energy. So it's very important that you place these boundaries. And, in the climate of today, and in this toxic world, we have to continue to stay the course, man. We have to stay the course and protect our boundaries. We have to.
Yep.
And that goes for friendships, relationships, family, everyone. If it interrupts your peace, it's not good for you.
A boundary. If it interrupts your peace.
The boundary has to be set. I learned that even with the condition, I had to end up setting boundaries for certain people in my life at that time. I had to.
Yeah.
From a wheelchair, I had to do it.
Yeah.
I had to set that boundary because people were taking that for granted. Oh, Trent's not who he used to be. Yeah, Trent's still that same guy. He's still that same guy. And I will set this boundary and wheel out on your ass in a minute.
Yeah.
Not walk. I didn't say walk out. I wheeled out.
Yep.
I set that boundary and I wheeled out of that relationship. Yep. So you have to know that, man. You have to know when to set the boundary and who to set the boundaries on.
Yep.
That's basically it.
That's the gospel. That right there. Brother Trent, we got to talk about this thing about settling. We got to settle this. We got to settle this thing on settling.
Go ahead. Speak your piece. We got time. Settling. Oh, wait. Shan did say, she had time. We got time. Go ahead.
Yeah. Settling. I'm going to say this as quick as I can.
Go ahead, brother.
When it comes to the idea of settling, and I love you, sisters, I do, but understand that when it comes to this thing of settling, what does it mean for you to settle? what I often see is some women have this laundry list of requirements that a man needs to be, I didn't say wants, but needs to be in order for there to be even an introduction. And I always say that physical attractiveness is an introduction, but your character is what gives longevity, right?
Absolutely.
So but just because a man doesn't meet every single requirement does not mean that you are settling. Here's what I mean by that. Because let's flip this around. Say if there's a man, you could meet a man who checks off every checklist on every check on your box, right?
Right.
And you can still settle. You can
repeat that, bro. Repeat that for the people in the back don't hear it.
You can meet a man who checks off everything on your little wish list, and you still settle. Because that does not you still settle. Trust me on that. You can still settle. What I'm also saying too is that when it comes to these requirements, you have to be able to choose your battles on what requirements that you may be able to compromise and some that you don't. That's what it boils down to. And those that you can't compromise, that's fine. You get it and you move on.
Exactly. And you have to prioritize yourself, man. You have to prioritize yourself. You have to. And this is for this message for the younger girls. You have to prioritize yourself. You have to. There's so many young girls out there, man, who don't prioritize themselves.
Yeah.
They have to prioritize themselves, man. I used to be one of those guys that took advantage of the full advantage of women not prioritizing themselves.
Yeah.
You have to prioritize yourselves, man.
Yeah.
You matter.
Yeah. And
this is real talk.
Yeah, this is my last point. It's just when it comes to settling, like again, I'm not saying that you should have to lower, what it is that your requirements are, but what I am saying.
Yeah, but I have a problem with that when you talk about that list, right? Yeah. As far as lower the standards, my thing is, what standard?
Oh, that's a good. You know what? That's a good one. And we even got Shan here. That's a good one. That's a good one.
What standard? Like what allows you to set a standard when your standards are very low and you're man picking?
And see, yeah, and that's where I go back to when people talk about, oh, I'm not settling, or I'm like, look, if there is a man, see, the problem is that when some women hear the word average, when they hear the word average, they think that it's some condescending tone. Oh my gosh. No, a man, I will say with full confidence that I am an average guy. I am an average guy. And I say that with full confidence. I'm not saying that I'm Idris Elba or anybody like that. No, I am an average guy. I'm an average looking guy. I understand. I'm just
Nick. I'm sorry, Nick. I can't say I'm mad because I've written about the average man.
Right.
Yes, there's nothing average about you, young brother. There's nothing average about you.
But you know what I mean. Average.
I know what you mean, but I don't want the audience to take that as you saying there's nothing average, but you're very intelligent.
Yeah.
So as far as average, I cannot.
But you have to understand, for me, and this is why I say people's definition of average. To me, that is average. Some people have had experiences where that is below what. She is back. Wait a minute. She is back. No, she's not. Oh Lord.
Sorry, I know y'all can't see me. I'm driving.
Hey, let me tell you something real quick.
Tell me or tell Nick?
No, I'm telling you. I'm talking to you.
Oh, I know you're not talking to me with that kind of tone.
You know what?
My daddy home in his house. Like
Hey, listen, I'm not trying to be your dad. You want me to finish that?
No, just
Okay,
whatever.
all
Anyway,
right.
what?
Okay.
What y'all
All
want
right,
to tell
so
me?
you lucky I like you like that. I'm just letting you come and interrupt this great conversation.
Oh, okay.
But go ahead.
What did you want? What? Go ahead, Nick. I'm sorry. I don't even know what y'all talking
You know,
about.
so we were talking about settling, and I'm trying to, and I was
Wait.
like that.
Are we talking about the mall? Are we talking about like settling for people? Like settling for
No,
relationships? What?
yeah, yes, and I'm saying that here's where I'm challenging that. I'm saying as quick as I can.
Hey, Nick, do not miss your words because she's here. You say what you got to say, brother. You say it with a stern.
Got it. Some women have requirements through the ass, right? And they want men to meet every single requirement that's on that list, right?
Oh, we're back to the list. Okay.
Now, what I'm saying is that what I'm personally saying is that not everybody is going to check off everything on that list, right? What I am saying though is that a person is not going to meet everything. You have to be able to choose and pick your battles on the things that you're going to compromise on and the things that you're not. And then don't feel like you are beneath someone else because you compromise on something that's a little bit less. That's all that I'm saying.
Let's get Brother Mark in. He's dropping jewels, man. He's dropping jewels.
Overall, both men and women cross
What's
boundaries.
Mark got to say?
Overall, both men and women cross boundaries and walls. Standing firm on your square can be the major key to your joy because happiness is temporary. OG facts. Come on through, glasses. I see you. Come on now. I see you.
I just thought I'd let you know it's really me. That's all.
So, Shan, settling, like
don't do it. Yes.
No. Obviously, I know not to settle. What I'm also saying too is, not every man is gonna check off everything on that list. Would you agree with that?
Right, they're not. But I think I looked at that video you posted that you and Trent were kind of doing social high fives on that video where that lady was talking about the list. And true, some women have some very superficial things on those lists. I don't consider height to be superficial. I truly don't. And I remember, I don't think that's.
I see you holding on to that like I'm holding on to that definition of wall and boundary. You're gonna hold on to that.
I'm always gonna hold on to that. But I don't believe, I don't know that it's true. Truly settling. I think first of all, you need to be real and honest with yourself and think about what's really important and what is really valuable, to you. And all that superficial stuff, as far as how much they have to make, what their hair looks like, that was never anything that was on my list. It just really wasn't. I was very, very realistic and very intentional about things that I would put on my list. So it wasn't a bunch of superficial stuff. But I still didn't want no little short dude. I remember somebody asked me, you and Mr. Williams put a number to the height. I never gave you a height limit.
I put the number there. I said the number. I'm holding up to say.
You guys came out with 6'2", and if God sees fit to bless you with somebody, no, that's way too much for me. I'm not doing 6'5". No.
So what's the number?
There is no number. I just don't want to be looking down at somebody if I'm wearing heels.
So you know what? It's interesting you say that, Shan, because I go, and everybody has their thing, because I go running every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting how our other counterparts, and I see people holding hands, walking, and things like that. I've seen women who are taller than.
Let me explain something to Shan. Shan, get your notebook.
Let
me explain something.
Oh Lord, did you been drinking again?
Water.
You've been drinking that non-alcoholic Chardonnay?
No, water. So let me explain something to you. As far as height requirements, it doesn't matter for the right man, the right confident man. Let me tell you something. When a man walks into the room with that woman that's 6 feet, the first thing gonna say is, the first thing they'll say is, "Damn, who's that guy with that woman?"
Yes, and that's good for them. Nobody ever. I'm not taking away from that. That's good for them. That's not what I want. I don't have to settle for somebody that's short. Hello.
I believe you'll take a 5'10" and run with it.
I dated men that were 5'10". I only said I did not want to be taller than the person if I have heels on.
Nick, you heard what I told her, right? I said she's gonna take a 5'10" and run with it. I guarantee you.
I don't know about running. I'm 5'6".
Oh my gosh. Yeah, even if you wore heels, I don't think you would be, depending on how many inch heels, I don't think you'd be taller than me.
I'd either be 5'9" or 5'10", depending on which pair I have on.
So we will be okay, so we will be even height. So what if somebody is even height with you wearing heels?
I mean, I'm okay with that, but you understand when I with my ex, he was shorter. We were the same height. So anytime I wore heels, I was looking down on him.
Right, but Shan, this is what I'm also saying too. So okay, and I respect your preference, right?
Say it with your chest, man. Say it because y'all don't mention words. Say it with your chest.
Oh Lord Jesus! What have you been drinking?
I respect your preference.
Agua.
I respect your preference. What I challenge is and I challenge this with brothers as well too, who will say, I can only talk to a woman who has a round ass and big titties and things like that, right? And I'm like, well, you will miss, like, what if she doesn't have that? But she's everything else, and she is attractive, but just because she doesn't have this and this, you gonna throw it all away? And you find her, not you per se, but a man finds a woman attractive. She doesn't have the.
Yes. Let me tell you, I made the mistake years ago when I was actually on a dating site, one of the one, like, I don't know if it was eHarmony or Match.com or whatever. And this is why now shut up. Anyway, I made the mistake of not fully reading the profile and not really looking at the picture that well to look at how long the legs look. So when he showed up, I was like, oh shit. And but I went through it. Nice guy. He was perfect on paper. Unfortunately, his mother was deceased. He'd never been married. He didn't have any children. So I don't have to compete with any other woman in his life, right? It would have been just me. He had a wonderful 6-figure job, beautiful mansion type household, two brand new sports cars, right? Throwing all kinds of money and stuff at me. Do you know I walked away? Yes, I did. I couldn't. I just couldn't.
Is it you?
Because of what? Well, why'd you walk away?
Because he was short. He was short.
Well, let me tell you.
Was it you speaking or your ego speaking?
What do you mean? My ego or me? That is my boundary. That is my boundary.
I tell you what's my boundary is coming on a platform and not telling the people about the sponsorship. Turn the camera on and talk to the people about
I'm driving, but okay, hold on.
Turn that camera on. Let's go.
Excuse me, I am driving in the A here. So sorry.
Tell folks about Tops and Bottoms.
Yeah, Tops and Bottoms. Tabs Edible Creations. Go to the website. And what's my email address? Oh, shannon.hemming@tabsediblecreations.com. Submit your orders. Open for business. Brand new cookies. I've got a triple chocolate brookie coming out this week. So, come on and order those. Not only cookies, and I don't want people to get tied up or just caught up in the cookies, because the cookies are great. I just happened upon those. I was very surprised, but cakes, cheesecakes, especially infused cakes. So I don't know who's going to be the first person that I get to actually send a peach cobbler cake to. Yeah, that's
actually I think Al Sal wanted to order a cheesecake.
Oh, really? The strawberry one?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to reach out to him, or he'll reach out to you.
I actually just did 2 of those over the weekend. Those are very popular too. But I think I'm gonna work on some more infused cakes. Some more adult beverage type cakes. Okay, there's the popo. Oh no, that's not.
Hey, Nick. Now you notice how that 5'10" guy made her turn that camera on, right? Now you go ahead and turn the camera off. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me tell y'all, ain't neither one. Ain't. Let me tell y'all. Let me be very clear on this. Ain't neither one of y'all. Ain't neither one of y'all in the runnings. Okay. So let's just move on.
It sounds good on paper. It sounds good on paper what you're saying.
Repeat that one more time.
Nothing.
No, repeat that.
I said ain't neither one of y'all in the runnings. Okay, so stop it, please.
And what running? And what are you talking about?
Whatever the 5'10", 5'9", whatever. Just no.
And what running? How many times I told you about categorizations? Come on, categorize.
Is that a word? Aren't you an author?
Categorize.
I'm definitely sending that dictionary to you.
So Mark said, "Boy, that X is the standard for the next, huh?"
What? Wait a minute. What did he say?
I'm gonna put it on the screen so you can see it.
That X is the next. The boy, that X is the standard. Man.
Well, you know, it is what it is.
I ain't want to say it, but I ain't want to say it. Mark just beat me to it.
What didn't you want to say? Say it. Say it from your chest.
Oh, come on. I'll take my shirt off. You know, I said.
Come on. Do it.
Not on this platform. We're not doing that.
Anyway, Shane, this is what I'm saying.
I got a dollar.
You so
put it back in your purse.
So this what I'm saying, Shane. This is what I'm saying. I got to roll after this. Shane, this is what I'm saying. I respect your preference. I get it. I respect you to the core.
Mm-hmm.
I also where I also challenge some people is that okay, if a person was all of these things, right, and the height was, it said the person was just maybe 2 inches shorter, right? But the person treats you well, the person like he does all of that. If that doesn't, I'm gotta be honest. I gotta be honest. If that doesn't tickle your fancy, what really does?
Let me tell you something, man. Let me tell you something.
It's gotta be.
Let me tell you something. A man will not negotiate, entertain the foolishness of a list. Will not do it.
You know what? You best be glad I am who I am right now.
And we love you, Shan. We love you, Shan.
Y'all best to be glad that I'm working on me every day.
We all are.
Y'all should be really. You guys should be really glad I'm working on me though every day.
Well, good.
I'm gonna leave you with this, Shan. Let me tell you something. I'm gonna leave you with this. I'm gonna let you have it. I'm gonna leave you with this. Be lucky that that Romelo's not sitting on the platform with you.
Dude, I could care less if Romelo was sitting on the platform with me. What difference does it make? He would. What the heck got to do with it?
Shan, I tell brothers. I say that because I tell brothers this as well too, and I'm like, there are a lot of great women out here, and when the focus is on, the tits and the ass. Now, I'm not saying that people shouldn't have their preferences. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm also saying is that it shouldn't be so hard pressed that it really enables, like when you see someone and being able to compromise in some choosing battles on where you want to compromise at. And because it is real out here, we don't have no Build-A-Bear shit out here.
Exactly.
And I'm not saying that we should just be with any and everybody. But what I am saying is that if the person is the 80-20 rule. If a person is 80% of what, why harp on the 20%?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, but go ahead.
In a nutshell, men do not give in to the list. Period.
Dude. You
can't be talking to me, Shan. You cannot be talking to me like that.
Men are very simple. Men are very simple.
Yes, you are very simple, and that lady was very right. All you need to do is feed a man, screw a man, and stroke his ego, and he's good. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. That's it. You guys are very simple, and some women don't realize how simple you are. Yes, women are complicated.
With that said, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
whatever. Because some people jump in pools and all kind of stuff that said they weren't jumping in pools. Let's just be clear.
Right.
So, we'll end on that note.
Yeah. I'll catch y'all on Sunday.
All right, Nick. Have a good one. Be safe.
All
right. You drive safe, girl.
All right, night.
All right.
Conversations with Trent in conjunction with Taylor Kennedy Media and your radio network would like to thank you for calling in and listening to tonight's episode. We hope that tonight's conversation offended you just enough to turn your mirror inward to come back for more. So until next week's conversation, be epic.